Hey there, Ashley here. So tomorrow is a holiday in the United States that we call Martin Luther King Jr. Day. People don't always say the junior, but he was a junior. So it's something we call a federal holiday, which means things like banks and schools are often closed. And something, compare that to something like Earth Day, which is not a federal holiday, and we don't really get time off to celebrate that. So what, why, who, where, when, and how about this? Well, we've established part of the what. We are recognizing Martin Luther King Jr., but why? Well, I think that has to do a bit with the who. So you might hear people call him Dr. King, but he wasn't a medical doctor. The Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King was a Baptist minister, and that about there, yeah, that's him there in the middle. This is during the March Against Fear in Mississippi. So he was a minister and a preacher, and he was an activist. So that means that he worked to change the way we do things in society. Most often we remember him for the work he did with civil rights and helping to ensure that people had the right to vote and equal access to public spaces. But he also worked for labor rights and justice for the poor and was an advocate of ending war. And in all of this, Dr. King advocated for the use of nonviolent methods to make change and used civil disobedience to fight unjust laws that were written to keep people oppressed. And in the course of his work, he was arrested 30 times. So 2 months before he was killed, he just happened to talk about how he wanted to be remembered. And so this is what he said. He said, "I'd like somebody to mention that day that Martin Luther King Jr. tried to give his life serving others. I'd like for somebody to say that day that Martin Luther King Jr. tried to love somebody. I want you to say that day that I tried to be right on the war question. I want you to be able to say that day that I did try to feed the hungry. I want you to be able to say that day that I did in my life try to clothe those who were naked. I want you to say on that day that I did try my life to visit those who were in prison. And I want you to say that day that I tried to love and serve humanity. Yes, if you want to say I was a drum major, say that I was a drum major for justice. Say that I was a drum major for peace. I was a drum major for righteousness. And all of the other shallow things will not matter. I will not have any money to leave behind. I won't have the fine and luxurious things of life to leave behind, but I just want to leave a committed life behind." Well, it's fair to say that we do remember these things about him. So what about the where, when, and how? Well, there's lots of ways that people honor this day. Some use the time to reflect on his work and his life and what remains to be done. Others take a service approach and dedicate the day to continuing in his footsteps by serving others. As for the where, well, wherever you are, you can find opportunities to explore, reflect, and serve. Many organizations put on special events to commemorate the date, or they might offer some volunteer opportunities. And thanks to our friend, the internet, many of those are available online, so get to Googling. And lastly, we've got when. So the third Monday of January is the day on the calendar that we call MLK Day. But this work, the work of advocating for justice and serving those who are oppressed, that is work that can and should happen every day. So that's my request of you, that tomorrow and tomorrow's tomorrow and the tomorrow after that, make it your mission to love and serve others. And let's see what sort of good we can do in this world. All right, thanks guys, bye.